Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and I'd like to dedicate the shir which we're giving today in memory of Yakir Hexter, whose father Josh was my student and worked together with me in Hadracha back in the 90s and part of the family of the yeshiva. Back in Parshat Shmot, Moshe Rabbeinu at the burning bush received a double mission. His first mission was a difficult one. God sends him, go to Paroh, and Perek Gimel Pasuk Yud, V'atalacha, you go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh, and take my people out of Egypt. Now, how can Moshe do that? And it makes sense that he's reluctant to take the job, and he asks God, how do I do it? And God says, basically, don't worry, I'll be with you. And God's answer basically is, I don't need you to take them out of Egypt. I need you to help me to take them out of Egypt. Or basically, God will take them out of Egypt. And God needs Moshe Rabbeinu sort of to run interference, as we'll explain very soon. But that seems to be the difficult job. The easy job is simply to go to the people of Israel and inform them about their upcoming redemption. Go gather the people of Israel, tell them God heard their cry, He's seen their suffering, and it's time to take them out of Egypt. And that seems like a rather easy job. It turns out that the most difficult job will be giving the message of redemption to the Jewish people, as we'll see in Parshat Vaera. And the relatively easy job will be getting the Jews out of Egypt, because there, God will be at his assistance. Allow me to explain. When you look at Moshe Rabbeinu's job, especially in Parshat Vaera, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, your job is to go to Pharaoh and fail. Your job is to go to Pharaoh, warn him, if he doesn't allow the Jewish people to go out and serve the God. In fact, he demands it. He send them out to serve the God, a 3-day distance in the desert. And God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you have to warn Pharaoh, but I'm telling you, he's not going to listen to you. In other words, Moshe, your job is to fail. Try to convince Pharaoh to send them out, and I'm going to make sure that he won't agree with you, and he'll harden his heart. And God afterwards actually hardens Pharaoh's heart in order for Moshe to fail. Now, again, the goal is not for Moshe to fail. The goal is to build up the tension in Egypt. So by the time we get to the 10th plague, not only does Pharaoh want to send out to serve the God, the entire nation of the entire people of Egypt are convinced that the reason for the plagues is because the Jews have to go serve their God a 3-day distance in the desert. And in that manner, the entire Egyptian nation rushes, or actually expels the Jewish people to go serve their God. And Moshe's job simply was to build up that tension in Egypt so that after 10 plagues, all of Egypt will be behind sending the Jews out of Egypt and be more than eager to lend them whatever they need. So in taking the Jews out of Egypt, Moshe Rabbeinu's job is very secondary. God is basically making all the plagues, doing all the strategy, and Moshe simply has to run the plagues, and as God informs him. The second job appeared to be very easy. Go to the children of Israel and tell them the redemption is coming. For some reason that doesn't work, because the job of telling the people of Israel about the information of their upcoming redemption is much more than information. As we'll see, it's an educational challenge. As we see in the beginning of Parshat Vaera, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu that, first of all, Ani Hashem, I am God, and I appeared to the ancestors, the name El Shaddai, but my name Yud Kei Vav Kei, I didn't make myself known yet. And he gives a whole background about, I'm remembering the covenant I made with them, referring to the covenant of Brit Ben Abtarim, to redeem them from their oppression, and ultimately bring them to the land of Israel. But then God tells Moshe the following, as we all know from the Seder, Lechein amor livnei Yisrael ani Hashem, go tell Bnei Yisrael ani Hashem, I am their God. And then votzeiti vitzalti v'ga'alti. And then v'lekachti etchem li la'am v'iti lechem l'Elohim. After I take you out of Egypt, then I'll bring you. You'll be my nation. I'll be your God. That's the events of Har Sinai. And then v'beit etchem al aretz. After you make that covenant in Har Sinai, I'll bring you to the land of Israel, and there our covenant will be complete. The problem is, Moshe tells that to Bnei Israel. Moshe tells that information to the Jewish people. And then we're told, in a very strange way, Vaydaber Moshe kena Bnei Israel, v'lo shumu Moshe. They didn't hear Moshe. They didn't. And we give a reason. Mikot Zeruach, because of all the hard oppression that was over their head. They didn't listen to what Moshe was saying. What I want to claim is, Lishmoa is more than just hearing or believing or understanding. It's internalizing. And lishmoa, to accept God, to accept a new way of life. Ani Hashem is not just information. Ani Hashem is a frame of mind of the understanding that we as a Jewish people are in the service of God. The acceptance of God as your boss, a new way of looking at life, not as a consumer where God's working for you, but rather as an employee, that we're in the service of God, that understanding is an educational challenge, and Moshe sees right away it's not working. V'lo shomer Moshe is going to take a long time to fix. Now, Am Yisrael has a very good excuse because of their hard work, because Zeruach mi'avodah kasha. And then Parsha Vaera takes an entire break. We have a list of genealogies, and then the whole focus of the Parsha, starting in chapter 7, is between God and Egypt, or basically between Moshe and Pharaoh, sending the plagues and slowly convincing the Egyptian nation it's in their interest that the Jews go serve their God that 3-day distance in the desert. We don't get back to the Jewish people until Parshat HaChodesh, next week in Parshat Bo, where for the first time Am Yisrael is given a set of mitzvot to see are they willing to obey some rules. So those rules are very easy. It's having a meal, following some ritual, sitting down to a meal, getting ready. But at least they're following a divine command. Then we are expelled from Egypt. God saves us at the Red Sea. And remember, after a 3-day distance into the desert, we're still not ready for the Torah being given yet. Instead, we go to a place called Marah, where the water was bitter, and in a miraculous way it's made better. And remember what God tells Moshe to tell the people. Okay? There, he gave them some basic laws and began to test them. Vayomer, im shamoa tishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha. Now are you willing to obey me? And then, vayashar b'einav taseh, where you do what's right in the eyes of God, and when you listen to his mitzvot, then there's no need to bring any more punishment on you like I brought on Egypt. Ki ani Hashem rofecha, I'm the God willing to help you, to put you in a new direction. Are they ready yet? Well, the next set of events with the manna, they're complaining, they have an attitude problem. In Refidim with the water, they have an attitude problem. Finally, we get to Mount Sinai. And after 6-7 weeks of experiential Judaism, or basically week after week, these momentous events where they witness God's greatness, now they're finally ready to make that commitment. And therefore, when we get to Har Sinai, God tells Moshe Rabbeinu, make the following proposition, not information to the Jewish people, give them the following proposition, Im shamoa tishma b'kol Hashem Elokecha, Im shamoa tishmu b'koli, are you willing to listen to the voice of God? U'shmartem et briti, and keep my covenant, and then you'll be my skula, you'll be my treasured nation, even though I'm the God of all the other nations, and that will make you a mamlechet konim b'goy kadosh, a nation separated from the other nations in the service of God, as a people to serve God. And then we answer Naseh or Naseh v'nishma. Then, after those 7 weeks of preparation and experiences, Am Yisrael is finally ready to internalize the message of Ani Hashem. Not just understanding it as information that God exists and that it was God who redeemed them, but their willingness to enter a covenantal commitment to be God's people and serve Him forever as they behave as a nation. And only in light of that will they be worthy of entering and conquering the land of Israel and setting up the nation that will represent God. Wishing everyone a Shabbat Shalom, and remembering that educational challenge that Moshe Rabbeinu faces, and now we understand why he's quite reluctant, is not an event, it's a process. And it takes a long time, it takes a lot of patience. In fact, ultimately it will take 40 years till the nation of Israel is ready. But redemption, Geulah, it's not knowing that God will redeem, or that He can redeem. The information of upcoming redemption that we talk about all through our prayers, especially on the Passover Seder, it's not simply the knowledge that God one day will redeem us. Redemption is always a two-way street, and in order to be worthy of redemption, the Jewish people have to be ready. That requires education and educators with patience who can explain the Torah, and depending on the level of the people and what their background is, sometimes they have good excuses for not being ready, but the job of educators is to get the people ready for that challenge and understanding, as a people, we're in the service of God. Taking that challenge is a challenge of the Jewish people, not only several thousand years ago, it continues to this day, and will continue in Mir Hashem forever. Everyone should have a Shabbat Shalom.